I'm gonna just jump in.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
All right, I'm gonna start with Exterminating Angel. I guess this is one of those films that is both like, I can't touch it, but I'm inspired by it. I'm not trying to ever make a film like that's this perfect, because it says everything so simply and so clearly and perfectly. But a lot of my movies kind of go into a place which can't really happen, but hopefully speaks to something that's very, even more truthful about the situation. And that's Exterminating Angel for me, which is like people's barriers within each other and between each other in a kind of most poetic but also poignant and straightforward way. So I was going to choose Night of the Hunter because what's amazing about the Criterion is that it has this like all these extras, including like an hour of dailies where you get to hear Charles Laughton direct, which is not anything like, like sometimes I can visit set and I can see directors that I appreciate doing their work, but to hear like a master like Charles Laughton and they're directly just his conversation with the actor, with the DP, it is the film school, like that is an essential part of, I think, ever becoming a director. Like I would make that the lesson one and the final lesson of any school I ever had. But since I feel like I have a bunch of copies of Night of the Hunter, a lot of my DVDs do disappear because of people borrowing them and not coming them back, but I'm pretty sure that Night of the Hunter is still on my shelf. But Hobson's Choice, starring Charles Laughton, anything that Charles Laughton did, really, for the most part, I think is out of this world, and that's why I'm getting this. An inspiration, La Vie de Bohème. I love all of Kaurismäki's films. For me, for whatever reason, this is like everything comes together. It's kind of miraculous. It has this fantasy. It's completely grounded. It's hilarious. It's also very moving. And what he does with this like train pulling out using, I won't go into it, but he does it in the most magnificent way that makes me think every time like, oh, I can't afford that. And then you think, oh, Aki figured out how to do it for basically 50 cents. The Lucretia Martel, La CIÉNAGA, I watch her work and I go like, I cannot ever even try to do something like that because it's kind of everything is flawless and perfect. But I still am going to keep watching because it's just the best of the best. Girlfriends, I think about like another miracle of a film. Anytime that I'm thinking like, how do I do this? I need this and I need that. And then you see this movie and you go like, oh, I can just like use what I have and make something. And if anything, it'll be a home movie that I want to hold on to. Or it could turn out something kind of just as amazing as this film. I saw this, Totem. I thought this was brilliant. Written beautifully, directed, acting, shot so beautifully. Just a film that I love. I think I'm just ready to dive in and see it again. Miracle in Milan. This is one of those movies that like my parents would always drop myself and my sister off to films that they thought were films that they loved and also that could work for kids. There's a moment at the end of this that I completely took as realistic as the time, but it kind of just defies gravity, and it blew my mind as a kid, and it was something that I like always held on to as thinking like, oh, films, if they feel real, will take you kind of completely someplace completely unexpected. I love it. Breakfast Club. I don't know why it spoke so deeply to me growing up in New York City. My school was nothing like this, but for whatever reason, I like stayed with me, watched it a bunch of times. Now that I've been making movies, I realize that like not only did it influence my storytelling, but just to see like, wow, there's like a lot of bold choices. And then once you find out that Didi Allen is the editor on it, you realize like, oh, it's very, very purposeful and working in this kind of whole other level. Pandora's Box. Louise Brooks starring in it. I think she's one of the best writers on film. Lulu in Hollywood. I would highly recommend that book because it's like she can write about film like nobody else. This is a movie my father, Ken Jacobs, talks about all the time, and I have to be honest, I don't believe I ever saw it. And so I know that this is probably the best way that I could ever possibly see it. And then I could no longer pretend that I've seen it with him. And I'm sure I'm going to find it as brilliant as he did. Thanks so much.